It's a Friday night matchup and an interesting one at that. NC State will welcome the Florida State Seminoles. What should we expect from both of these teams?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. Our Thursday show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can sign up today, bet just $5, and if that $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Happy Thursday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Turning the page from whatever you want to call the performance in Miami this past weekend, NC State football has a Friday night game this week. The last 2 games of the season will be at home, so hopefully can get some home cooking going. The Florida State Seminoles will venture up to Raleigh, North Carolina, and Carter-Finley has been a house of horrors for Florida State for the last 5 to 7 years. Did you know NC State is 5-1 in their last 6 games against Florida State? 3 of those wins have been in Carter-Finley. So you also have a 3-game home win streak over Florida State. But before we get into some of the details of the players later on, I want to start right here at square one. Kenton, back in January, when we initially went over the 2025 schedule, I distinctly remember the first comment you made about Florida State being that we see them in late November. And at that time of the year, you expect them to be sort of a defeated bunch. The season would have already gone off the rails for them. Yep. Fast forward to right now, Florida State is 5-5. They're near the bottom of the ACC conference. That prediction was spot on, but now we actually got to play this game. What do you expect from Florida State on Friday night?
Well, here's the thing. I actually think they're in a better place than where I thought they'd be. I thought that they would be coachless by this point in time, which in essence they are.
Hasn't been for lack of trying.
Let's be very real, right? Like Alfred committed to Alfred being their AD, committed to he will be our head coach through the entirety of the season. Yep. After the season, we will be taking a hard evaluation at every leadership spot in our football program. So what do you think that means? You know, as my friend Grayson Boone likes to say, read between the tea leaves there. And it's very clearly saying he's going to get fired. But more importantly than that, I think that this is a team that, surprisingly enough, they haven't really quit yet. They haven't really packed it in yet.
They did against Stanford. They absolutely quit in that game. But then they woke back up.
And here's the thing. I do agree that, yes, this is not a team that's fully motivated, playing at their highest clip, fully ramped up. I'm not going to lie to you and say this is the most motivated you'll ever see a Florida State team be. I'm not going to tell you that lie. But what I will say is this team is not where I thought they would be in terms of even mentality, because when I think about this team's mentality, the first thing I think is, are y'all sure that y'all want to do this in general, right? Are y'all sure that y'all even, I guess, they have looked like that at times, no doubt about it. But the Virginia Tech game showed me something. It showed me something. It showed me that there was still a pulse there. And even when teams give up on the season, if you give them enough leverage, if you let them get up on you, if you let them keep the game close, all of a sudden, that team that was dead, insert Duke Deuce meme, because, Crunk ain't dead. They alive. What's going on? There's a football game and we're winning it. So this is a team that's going to try to run the ball. They're going to be extreme. That's Florida State's thing. For those of you who don't know, Gus Malzahn is their offensive coordinator. Gus Malzahn won a national championship as an offensive coordinator. Do y'all remember who his quarterback was at that time?
Cam Newton.
Quick question, Grayson. How many players on that team went to the NFL that weren't named Cam Newton in terms of offensive players?
I don't think there were any.
There wasn't a single one. Wasn't a single one. The only players that, had they not gotten into off the field trouble, might have went was maybe Michael Dyer, and God rest his soul, it wasn't off the field troubles. It was a drunk driver incident that took Philip Bletzenkirchen from us much too soon. Again, God rest his soul. He was a fantastic young man by all reports. So this is not me saying that oh yeah, they're going to be physical because they're Florida State and they're good. No, no, no. Gus Malzahn wants to run the ball. He wants to win the numbers advantage, and you win that numbers advantage when you have a quarterback like Thomas Castellanos, who is a plus in the run game. The only problem there is we're pretty good at stopping the run sometimes. We're
Sometimes.
that we have our moments where all of a sudden teams are like, hey, can we run the ball against these guys? I don't think so. And their passing game has been feckless to say the least. I mean, it's to say it's been anemic I would have to apologize to all the anemic people out there. You know what I mean? Like it's been hot and cold. It's been up and down. There have been moments of complete futility from their passing game. They've had some games where Deuce Robinson was hobbled or not there altogether, or unavailable altogether, rather. They've had some times where, I mean, you miss a 6'5" big body that can move the way he does. Yeah, it's going to hurt your offense a little bit. But I say all this to say, offensively, that's what they're going to bring. Defensively, they're bringing the 3-3-5 back to Raleigh.
Surprise.
What a great time it was. And, but you got more 3-3-5 guys coming through here. Their big fella in the middle. Whew. Let me tell you something now. Big dog can move. And so Grayson and I were at ACC Media Days, and he had a chain that was so big, it made the entire room drop in temperature a little bit.
That thing looked heavy. That thing weighed like 20 pounds.
Let me tell you something. 20 pounds of diamonds dancing on that man. They were doing the merengue, the salsa, all that. But you know what? He also can do a little bit of dancing on the field. The big fella, when he's motivated and rolling, he is impossible darn near to stop at the center of that. And he is something that we have not seen in terms of guys in the middle of our 3-3-5, and that's no disrespect to the guys that we have. It's kind of what we were expecting Brandon Cleveland to be coming in this year. And again, no disrespect to him. This is not saying that Brandon Cleveland hasn't been a really good player. But when I tell you Darrell Jackson Jr. is, when he's motivated and rolling, 6'5", 337 pounds of just it's nasty. The closest thing I can compare it to, at his highest clip, he reminds me a lot of Dexter Lawrence at Clemson. At his highest clip. The interesting thing about that, though, is how long do you get his highest clip? That's the part where it's like, there's the Achilles heel there. So the rest are pliable for our offense if we get the good version of offense, if we get the Dr. Jekyll version of our offense showing up and not the Mr. Hyde.
I saw a quote from Dave Doran talking about Florida State. He said that this year's team is probably the most physically talented Florida State team that we've seen the last couple of times that we've seen them. And I think he's right. I think Florida State does have a lot of really raw talent. They just haven't been able to put it together for the entirety of a season. They are 5-5. They opened the year beating Alabama, which is crazy in itself because Castellanos spent months calling his shot, and I thought he was a dead man walking into that game, but then they win. And so then it's like, okay, is Florida State back now? They stomp out their 2 cupcake games after that. They're 3-0. They go into that Friday night game at UVA, and they lose in double overtime. They're like, okay, I guess we'll see. Got to play Miami. Can't beat Miami. Then that snowballs into a loss versus Pitt, and then that snowballs into a road loss at Stanford, which they quit in that game. I don't care what anyone says. If you lose to Stanford on the road as Florida State with the roster you have, you quit. So they quit in that game, and they lose. But then to Kenton's point, they kind of have revitalized themselves to a certain extent the last couple of weeks. They stomped out Wake Forest by 35 points. They did lose to Clemson, but I don't think they played necessarily a bad game. The turnovers in that game were the ultimate difference. Then they smoked Virginia Tech. So they're kind of coming back up on an upswing. But I think that obviously then does beg the question, what in the world do we expect from them on Friday night? They're going to be a physical bunch. They're going to be fast. They're going to play us tight. It should be, I think, a very entertaining game, to say the absolute least. But then the other side of the equation is, what do you expect from NC State? We just got our faces beaten in down in Miami. That game was never close. In fact, it was metaphorically over there in the first quarter. How do the Wolfpack rebound from something like that? You are back at home, and theoretically that should matter. Night games in the Carter, they have a special energy about them. The last 2 games of the season will be night games. So being that Florida State has not performed well in Raleigh the last couple times they've been up here, can NC State find a way to rally the troops? Well, I don't really know if we have an answer to that quite yet either. So you have two teams coming into a Friday night primetime matchup. And to be honest, I don't know what to expect from either one of them. So I think this is a very intriguing matchup. NC State can play well. They could also not play well. Florida State can play well. They could also not play well. Total question mark for a Friday night game, but I think that will make it all the more interesting. Coming up next, we're going to start detailing some of the key players for Florida State. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our Thursday sponsor is FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game, you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket to each and every fourth quarter comeback. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game more exciting, and especially when your team's the one making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 back in bonus bets when you sign up, place a $5 bet, and that sucker wins. So head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel. Florida State is currently a 5.5-point favorite over the Wolfpack on Friday night. Can NC State cover? Who might score for NC State? Will Hollywood Smothers get back in the end zone? All of these plays and more are available on FanDuel. Head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Middle portion of our Thursday show, let's talk some key players now for Florida State. We'll start here on the offense. You mentioned Thomas Castellanos. He's not been all that good this year for keeping it 100 on here. He's completing less than 60% of his passes. He's thrown for 2,300 yards, only 12 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But what Kenton said is the key when you're talking about Castellanos. Very pliable in their ground game. He has 404 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. He's actually second on their team in rush. So there's really no secret where he's going to make his hay. And I think a dual threat quarterback poses a very interesting challenge for NC State because obviously we saw Haynes King a couple weeks back. We handled him, although Haynes King did throw for over 400 yards on us. I'm not saying that Castellanos is capable of that, but I think Castellanos, if you give him the opportunity, can be an even more capable runner than perhaps Haynes King was that. So, Kenton, when you're looking at Thomas Castellanos, what's the biggest challenge if NC State's going to stop him?
He is a math changer. What do I mean by math changer? Not only does a quarterback who runs the ball add in to your blocking scheme, because normally you have a quarterback who hands off to one guy, then you got 9 guys to block. But when he runs the ball, you got 10 guys to block, right? But even beyond that, he's not a guy you want to see one-on-one in the open field.
No.
I have seen our linebackers and defensive backs in the open field, and with all due respect, I don't want to see those guys on the dance floor. Them hips look a little tight, look a little, look like they ain't got much wiggle to them. So I don't want to see a lot of guys hoping to tackle him one-on-one. Instead, I want to see gang tackling. I want to see everybody running to the ball. I want to see leveraging the ball from 3 different angles. That's what I want to see when you think about, keeping Thomas Castellanos caged into that pocket, if you will. And that's the biggest challenge that he presents, really, in terms of who he is. I'm not saying that he's a horrible passer because he has moments. He has moments where you're like, oh, man, he's put it all together. But the true brilliance of Thomas Castellanos is when he puts that ball under that right or that left arm and he's directing traffic mid-play while he's running. He knows how to speed up, slow down, change tempos while running the football in a way that's Lamar Jackson-esque. It's kind of that deal where you can tell he's pacing himself behind his blockers. He's got a little bit of Le'Veon Bell to his game, and then boom, when he goes, he's gone because he has a ton of speed. So, Thomas Castellanos, he presents the problem of he's a weapon. He's a weapon. Even if he was a running back, he'd be a similar style weapon. And even if he was a slot wide receiver or a punt return, same thing. It's like every play with him, you don't know when he's going to create some broken field and get a little jiggy there, which, again, I don't want to see a lot of our defenders go one-on-one in the open field with this young man. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing. He just changes the math on what you want to do defensively.
And I'll extend that point just a little bit further. I think he might also be the best in the ACC at improv. He seems to be at times at his absolute best when everything is broken down and all of a sudden he's scrambling around, avoiding 3 different sack opportunities. And then all of a sudden the ball's going downfield 25 yards. It's like, that was 3rd and 17. and they just completed it with ease. How in the world did that happen? That's not exactly an anomaly when you're looking at Thomas Castellanos. In fact, some of the best plays that he's made all season were a complete crapshoot, and somehow the pass is completed for a touchdown. It's just like, he is like the epitome of like a no, oh my God, yes. That is Thomas Castellanos in a nutshell. So he's hard to plan for. He's very unpredictable, and NC State's going to have to be on their P's and Q's. I think gang tackling him is going to be a massive key for that one because, again, you don't want him out of the pocket making magic happen. Detailing the offense a little bit further as well, Kenton, you did name drop Deuce Robinson. He is their top wide receiver. He's having one of the best seasons in the ACC as well. He's very likely to become a 1,000-yard receiver this season. If not tomorrow night, he probably will the week following that. But he is far and away their top weapon. He has 49 receptions for 947 yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. This dude has had multiple games where he's had like 140 plus receiving yards. Just a monster. He's 6'6", extremely physical wide receiver. It's really no secret at all where they're going to want the football to go if they do line up for a passing play. So Deuce Robinson, what kind of challenge does he present for the NC State secondary?
Grayson, this young man was hobbled a bit by injury at times this season, but I want to let you in on the secret of how good he's been over the past 4 games, okay? 4 receptions for 98 yards, 5 receptions, 148 yards, 9 receptions, 124 yards, 6 receptions, 134 yards with 2 touchdowns coming in that span as well. This young man is a big body Benz. You understand?
That is 504 receiving yards in 4 games.
That I'm telling you, this is the type of guy. Remember when I used to say Bailey Hockman was somebody down there? Forget it.
We got a Bailey Hockman name drop on a Thursday podcast. How about
remember when I used to say that? Thomas Castellanos could do that. But Bailey Hockman was doing that with Thayer Thomas. With all due respect, that's not Thayer Thomas's game. Thayer Thomas was fantastic in a bunch of other ways. That ain't his game. You know what Deuce Robinson is? 6'6", 225. And I think that 225 a little generous. I think he a couple Bowberry biscuits from putting that hand in the dirt. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm joking. But in all seriousness, that is a young man that is massive and he can move. I can't remember the guy's Johnny Wilson, I believe it was. Johnny Wilson who was there a couple years ago. He's similar frame, but he plays a lot bigger than Johnny. Even though Johnny was physically more imposing than him, he has the ability to contort his body and control his body. And I'm going to tell you, Grayson, if that one catch against Virginia goes differently, the one that he bobbles out of the back of the end zone, if that one catch goes differently, not only do they win that game, that may be one of the greatest butterfly effect moments of all time, because how many things go differently based upon that, right? Yep. Virginia goes from that game, elevates into one of the best teams in the ACC that is on the precipice, is one win against Virginia Tech away from being in the ACC championship. And Florida State, like we already said, the tea leaves are pointing to, hey, this job's going to be open. Yeah. We're going to need a new coach soon. So, he's a fantastic player. He's a fantastic player. He is extremely hard to keep off the board because, again, he's big, he's fast, he can box out, he can control his body, and he did not let that one bobble against Virginia define his season because he has been a menace in these last 4 to 5 games. So all in all, I would say Deuce Robinson, their biggest weapon overall. And I'm going to tell you, this team is just physically big. Even their backs, Sawchuck and company, big dudes. They're just big bodies. So all in all, this is going to be a game where if you're going to put out Florida State's light, if you're going to make them quit again, you have to do it early. If you win the first half against this team, they will quit. They will tap out. They will no mas. Yep. Each and every game, the first half has determined who won the game. If you don't believe me, let me put it to you like this. Virginia Tech, Florida State, 10-7, Florida State at the end of the first half. Who went on to win the game? Florida State. Well, okay, that's not a big enough sample. That's just one game. Who knows? That could be an outlier. Well, let's look at Clemson, Virginia Tech. 18-7, Clemson. Who goes on to win that game? Clemson. Okay, well, let's look at the Virginia Tech game. Maybe that's the one. 7-10, Florida State. Who goes on to win that game, Grayson?
Florida State.
Oh, okay. So it seems to me there's a pattern and there's a trend here. NC State has to get off to a hot start and put this team away early. Put them down in the dumps early. Because if you let them get a lead, that score, those two games that they led at halftime, they went on to win by 20-plus points. Do you want to be on the I got beat by not one, but two fired coaches train? You want to be on that train? It's a very lonely train. Nobody want to be the engineer. Nobody want to ride in the caboose. Nobody wants any parts of that train. So Doran and company, don't be on it.
And now tying up some of their key players, let's switch over to the defense. Who do you have your eye on for the Seminole defense, Kenton?
Yeah, so I've already talked about Darryl Jackson Jr. and Earl Little Jr. Those two are probably the main guys I think about, but they've got what Dick Vitale will call a diaper dandy over there, okay? Y'all know me. Y'all know I'm a defensive lineman myself, and I love me some defensive line play. And I'll tell you what, they got a sack specialist that may be going somewhere next year to make himself some real special money in Mandra Desir. That kid, 6'6", 265, every bit of it. And he is a high motor guy. He is a guy that plays like his hair is on fire all the time. Now, is it misdirected sometimes? He's a freshman. What do you expect? Do his eyes get a little bad? Does his hands get a little bad sometimes? He's a freshman. What do you expect? But physically, every tool in the toolkit, he has it. He has it. If he develops and he's been developing it as the season goes on, but if he continues to develop a more thorough pass rush plan, oh boy, this guy here, I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts. He's gonna be a guy that he won't have to wait long to hear his name called in the green room in a couple of years. By the way, Grayson, we just talked about the last 4 games of Deuce Robinson. Guess what else has happened in the last 4 games?
A sack for Desir?
A sack for Desir. This kid is special. He's been coming on as of late. And Norvell, he must have been listening to me because he's gone with my strategy of if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose with the young guys. And all of a sudden, Desir has showed I may be young, but I'm ready, in the words of Keith Sweat, because he has dominated the line of scrimmage.
You mentioned the pass rush plan. I can tell you what it might be for the Seminoles tomorrow night. Get after CJ Bailey. I believe at least by now, the tape is out on CJ. If you force pressure in the backfield, he tends to get a little skittish. He'll make mistakes. Probably no secret what Florida State's going to try and drum up on Friday night in the Carter. Coming up next, we're going to round out our Thursday episode talking about how we predict the rest of this ACC race will wrap up. Who's going to make it to Charlotte? Who might make it into the CFP? We'll discuss after a quick word from our sponsors. Last couple of minutes of our Thursday show, let's talk bigger picture ACC football. Obviously, the race for the conference standings is still red hot right now. There's no clear determination of who's going to end up in Charlotte for the ACC championship. We've spent a little time talking about it on the ACC Squad show, but if you haven't caught us on there, we're going to bring the conversation to you right on here. So, Kenton, we'll start here. With 2 weeks of play left, who are you predicting to make it to Charlotte to play in the ACC championship game?
Well, as of right now, the thing that's making this so convoluted and hard is we've got 4 teams at the top that all have exactly 1 conference loss. Yep. Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pitt, SMU. Here's the thing. We've got some eliminator games coming out of that group as well.
Some big ones, yeah.
This weekend, Pitt and Georgia Tech, they're going to see about each other. As the kids where I'm from would say, somebody going to get papped out in that one. We've got SMU and Louisville as well. And even though Louisville is outside looking in, they could help themselves in this one. Many people believe that Virginia is running out of steam and they're cooked and all that. But Virginia, I would argue, has the easiest way the rest of the way because they're not playing this week. They got a bye week. Do you know what they have left? Beat Virginia Tech. That's it. And mind you, everybody's excited about James Franklin. But you know what's going on inside that locker room? They know.
Crickets.
They know we're cooked. A lot of us are not going to be back on this roster next year. And even beyond that, we have finally seen, because we thought it would happen. We thought it would happen against us, but instead we are finally seeing a Virginia Tech team that's looking like they've started to kind of pack it in. They've got Miami this week, and then they see Virginia, as opposed to Virginia, who's resting up and seeing them. So I think Georgia Tech, Virginia will be the two that end up there, because Georgia Tech, Pitt, I've got Georgia Tech winning that game because the football guys don't like resting your players to lose in one game or not caring much to lose in one game, which it was evident. I mean, that's the worst game I've seen from Kyle Lewis and Biles and company. That type of linebacker play is unbecoming of a Pat Narduzzi team. It just was disgusting to see. And then you look at Georgia Tech, who, while they have their limitations, they've given everything that they have. Every single game. They've given everything that they've got. And yes, they've needed some help at times, but I think that they'll get it over the finish line. I think Virginia will get it over the finish line as well.
If you have been kind of tuned out to the ACC race because NC State is not in it, I highly suggest in the next 24 hours, you tune yourself back in, because these next couple weekends across the ACC, it's going to be absolute cinema. So I will start here. I think Virginia, I think they're going to be in. They're 6-1 in conference. To Kenton's point, they only have to play and beat Virginia Tech. Still crazy that we beat them and it does not count against the standings. Imagine how differently that would look if it did. But I believe UVA will be in it, and that's kind of crazy to think about. UVA coming into the season, Tony Elliott was very much on the hot seat. What?
Let me let you know something that's crazier, Grayson.
What's that?
I'm predicting an ACC championship in which NC State has beat both of the participants.
Damn. Yeah, that's kind of depressing. I can't lie. That would listen. Kevin Keats, he rid us of NC State poop. But if that happens, that might be the most NC State poop thing I've ever seen in my entire Wolfpack career. I don't know. That'd be messy for us. Okay. I have UVA in. I kind of thought they'd lose at Duke, but Duke just completely choked themselves off the radar. So see ya, Duke. UVA is going to be in. I think they're going to beat VT. They will be in. The second team, I think this is where some chaos gets involved. So Georgia Tech has to play Pittsburgh. That is an elimination game. I think Pittsburgh's going to beat Georgia Tech, and I think that game's going to look a lot like our game did when we played Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has shown that they really can't stop anybody on defense. Boston College, for Pete's sake, almost took them out in Chestnut Hill this past weekend. I think Pitts can be charged up. I'm agreeing with Kenton on the fact that I don't love the comments that Narduzzi made about, not caring about the Notre Dame game. So we're about to see if you're about that business. If you were saving some horsepower and you might still have some under the hood, I guess we're going to find out. But I think Pitt will beat Georgia Tech. That's going to pull Georgia Tech back down. I think SMU is going to beat Louisville, and that will then rank SMU back up. I think the championship game is going to be Virginia and SMU, and then I think SMU is going to win that game. I think SMU is going to be the auto bid for the ACC, which is crazy. And so here's my last and possibly most important ACC question. In the event that Miami wins out and they go 10-2, Kenton, are they going to make the CFP?
Yes. You can't keep them out. You can't keep them out. Because at that point, they would have identical records with Notre Dame and a head-to-head win over Notre Dame. Notre Dame's best win would not be better than Miami's best win, which is them.
Agree.
The logic that the committee has used so far to keep them ahead of Miami, it falls apart. It literally is, well, they're not within one team of each other, so they're not in the same. Yeah, well, that then relies on Utah and BYU to both not lose or not do it, or not get another ranked win that jumps one of them up over the other in a very meaningful regard, which, come on now, you're counting on 18 to 22-year-olds to do right. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason I call you folks betting degenerates who want to hear our lines and our pick'ems every time on FanDuel. There's a reason. There's a reason, okay? Because that's just not realistic. So I do think that Miami gets in at 10-2 as an at-large, because, again, you really can't make a significant and serious argument to keep them out. You would then have to say, well, they've got bad losses. This Florida State team that we're playing, game one of the year, everybody called me an idiot and said, there's no way that Florida State's going to be bad this year. Ha, you're a hater. Why was that, Grayson? Who did they play in game one?
Who played Alabama?
They played Alabama. And how did that game go for Alabama?
31-17. Alabama didn't win, actually. Florida State won.
I'm sorry, Granny. I know you're listening to this. She's a huge Todd fan. For those of you who don't know, my family's roots trace back there. But the reality of this thing is very simple. I would say that Miami has to get in because under what grounds do you have to leave a 2-loss Miami out when there's serious talk of including a 4-loss Texas potentially? Like where do we go from there?
I agree with you. I think if Miami finishes 10-2, I think they have to be in because of everything you just laid out about Notre Dame. I know it was the first game of the season, and all of a sudden, when you lose games becomes more important than if you lost them or not, but it has to matter. The result on the field, it has to matter. And if it comes down to a head-to-head between Notre Dame and Miami, Miami not only beat Notre Dame, but they do have the better win on their resume, which is Notre Dame. I think that will be a fascinating storyline to keep a hold of. Also, isn't Miami technically not mathematically eliminated yet? I think like everyone ahead of them has to lose and they have to win out. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen, but wouldn't that be something too? If Miami somehow miraculously makes the ACC title.
They have one of the eliminator games. So next week, Pitt and Miami are going to have a little tip there. And that could be a decider if certain things shake right. If Virginia Tech somehow finds a way to pull a win out of their behind in that one against Virginia, then it's going to be a situation where you're looking at Miami potentially being there. Same thing with SMU potentially losing to Louisville, because then they would look at how you fared against common opponents or something like that. And if they lost by enough, next thing you know, SMU is on the outside looking in there, I believe. So, mathematically, Miami is not eliminated. There's still a chance.
That would be all-time ACC chaos, if you ask me. But that's how we see the rest of the ACC regular season going down. Tell us how you see it going down in the comment section. That will do it for us here on Thursday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We will see you tomorrow on Friday, a game day episode, an 8 p.m. kickoff Friday night in Carter-Finley. We'll see you tomorrow. So until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.